outside of being a visionary and just staying ahead of the curve, than being ahead of most people in the way you think and seeing what's going to happen and what's happening, and you've been around the space. I also think of you as someone that is really good at scaling companies. What have you learned when it comes to scaling? Like if someone has a company, they're an entrepreneur, maybe they're by themselves, right? And they're doing well, they're earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, whatever, but they're doing it all. It's all on their shoulders. Like you see all those people all the time. Probably talk to them all the time too. And they want to really scale something like you have that's bigger than just them. What advice could you give them?
I'll focus on the independent insurance, the individual insurance agent trying to grow up, because what I'll talk about that'll capture, people will resonate in wherever they fit in on that. But if you're out there and you're learning how to sell insurance, and if you want to learn to sell insurance and you want to sell insurance, you have your stable lead program, you have the thing it takes to sell insurance forever. And that's all you want to ever do forever. You don't need a whole lot of discipline. You do need discipline, but there's a way you can do it, and it kind of revolves around you. And so you know how to manage yourself and your routines and the things that matter. If you want to build a agency or later on an enterprise, then you don't, it's cuteness, but if you'll forgive me, but you stop being a salesman and start being a scalesman. Because there's three levels of here. You have salesman, sales team, and sales force. Now, if you're a salesman, you can probably get a buddy who sells with you. And, there's a lot. That's pretty much most of the agencies in the world. There's 3 or 4 guys and gals, they know each other. He does what he does, and I do what I do. We kind of know each other and we help each other out and all of that. A salesperson can become a sales team, but he'll never become a sales force unless he has a certain disciplines at the very beginning.
Yes.
So for instance, I had to learn to be a scalesman when I first started business. And what that means to me is I'm doing my behaviors. I'm making my behaviors and my actions, my routines. Everything that I do comes under scrutiny to be a replicatable thing. So I'm not just winging it, even though I'm good enough to wing it with a client. I can, my dad used to joke. He'd say, sit him down at the kitchen table, do all these right things. I'd go in, he wouldn't even tell him to turn the TV off in the living room, walk out with apps. He's like, well, I'm good enough, I can do that. But then he got in slumps and he had to go back to the basics and stuff like that. But that's being a salesperson, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But then if you want to get better, you have to learn how to do the same thing every time. The more routine I can get where I can say the exact same things, I can go through the presentation the same way, I can do the same, we do a thing called I'll talk about technique another time, but we do certain things to transition in the close of the deal, certain stick techniques after,
nice.
On the phone and afterwards. You do all of those things correctly, and you do them every time to where they become nothing but habit. Now, if you're doing that yourself, now this guy comes along, that's your buddy, wants to do something, you have something to teach. You're not like, hey, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an unconscious competent, but we can go out and sell some stuff. And yeah, we got one. Yay, great. You'll hit a certain ceiling with that. But if you teach him, look, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and we do it exactly this way, then you start having not only predictable results for yourself, and even when you're feeling sick, you could still sell something because it's so routine. Sure. But you'll get it for him, and then the next guy and the next guy. And if now you have a team that does things in a replicatable way, we have a thing that we do that works. And we know that if we do this thing, it works. We all add our own personality and uniqueness to it. It's not reading a script like a robot, but it is a method of how we do things. Now we can turn that into a sales force, because the people on that team who want to come out and have their own team and they want to build off of that, they can, they have something to teach, and that what they teach there is congruent with what everyone else is doing. And now you have a whole organization that's focused around a certain methodology, a certain core values, certain way they treat customers, and the way they do it, that anytime there's a problem, you don't have to run around trying to diagnose. And there's not a lot of he said, she said, and flipping around and having to play detective to figure out what's going on. You simply just come in and say, where on the script are you having a problem? When you answered the phone, did you answer it this way? Whatever it is, did you do the stick technique during the cool down? You get to where it's that simple. It's like, no, I couldn't. Well, you're going to have to start doing these things, or how can I improve the way you're doing these things? So the most important thing is have a method that you use and that your team uses. It doesn't have to be exact, but it has to have loose rails as the skeleton. The personality fills in it's like framing the house. You frame the house of the organization, and then, the person figures out his own sinks and his own walls and pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Dude, that's so helpful. That's good, man. That's awesome. We're gonna have to do something live at some point, because I bet we would be getting a ton of questions if this was actually live right now, by the way.
Let's do it.
Yeah, a ton. And I'm going to have you back on in the near future, because I want to talk technique next time, like you're talking now, because I know that when it comes to phone sales, I bet you would hold your own against anybody and be able to help agents as much as anybody too, which is really cool. And that's what people need, man. You know what I mean? They're moving into virtual sales a lot. You mentioned agency and then enterprise. Talk through the difference there. I think you said, like, hey, you become an agency, then you become an enterprise. Is that how you said it?
Yeah. So, if you remember, I said sales force. You become a salesperson, a sales team, and a sales force. Yep. Then you can kind of become an enterprise. When you have a sales force, that can take on multiple levels. And then that's when you really start getting into, it's not just about us sales guys anymore. We got to have some people who understand accounting and technology and all the other stuff.
Yes.
Multi-location stuff and all of that.
Yeah.
That's when you really become something that's really hard. And less fun than just having a sales team, for sure. Yes. So I consider, for when I'm teaching this, I consider a salesperson to be a single person, a sales team to be up to 5-6 people, and a sales force to be more than that, and everything up above that. And the real thing is without having the scalable disciplines, you can always move up one level, but you're not going to be able to move up the second. And so if you learn when people are building a business, I've been through it more times than I wish, but you start doing really good, and then you hit a certain point, and we call them breakpoints, where you just start crashing, because to get beyond that, it takes a whole different skill set than what it took you to get there. And for people to learn that is very, very difficult. So what I try to teach people to do is start doing things in the beginning the right way, so that you can just cruise right through those breakpoints and scale rapidly. Yes. If you have those skills that you're going to need to learn 2 steps ahead, and you start it now, you're going to be okay when it comes in. You're going to be suited to handle the challenges, at least. Yeah. There's a lot of people that just have an agency to where, you're really building something bigger with an enterprise, which makes a ton of sense. What was it like having 40 people on the phones selling Medicare all at the same time? Like, most people can never comprehend that. You got to have the technology. I mean, that was the biggest thing. You got to have the technology to handle lead generation. You got to have best practices when, your customer calls in, my customer calls in, I'm on the phone and all of that. You got to know how to build an office. You got to know how to have human resources. You got to know all of those things. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, especially if you have the right people. And so I've had a lot of ups and downs with that. And I'm getting a lot more strict on who I let into my world, which is, I guess, probably the most wisdom I can put on to anyone. But it's a lot of fun. It's chaotic. And I'll admit, I got, I got it where it went a little bit above what I was capable of at the time, even with the technology and all that. And plus, on a personal note, why we had some problems there, I had some family issues, and I lost my dad's alive, but I lost him as a partner in my business. And so that suffered a lot, because we had a division of labor, and it took a long time to catch up for that. And I trusted some bad people. So there were some problems in that, but rebuilding is like where you learn it. It's like, what happened there, and how can I have just as much success with 15, 20 people I'm in love with, and I would, lay in front of a bus for as I can with 40 and going to 100 people and having chaos.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you if you like my new headline, because I'm going to do a teaching on this. How to scale without the hail.
I love that. That's good.
Sign up for it, because that's like the question I've been asking myself forever. These call centers are opening up, and they call them call centers because they come from the Utah long distance company mindset or electric company mindset, where they think put butts in seats and, it's a call center and it's a contact center and we're going to have it. And then they try to do that with agents. And then they get hundreds and hundreds of agents, and they're all hating their life, and they don't have anything that they can depend on and care about. They don't have stake or equity in anything that they're doing. Yes. And their jobs change every day because it's in that. And most people, and I found it myself, the bigger you get, the harder it is to keep a good workplace dynamic.
Yes.
So, that's the question of my life. How do you have technology to solve all the day-to-day problems and keep things consistent? And then how do you have those routine things of what we do and those disciplines and the right people in place? And then I think if you can do that, there's some small group dynamics and stuff you can put into that that can really help. But I will go to my grave not wanting to have a 500-person organization if it's going to become like not fun to work at, because I've been there before too. I had over 200 people in my whole contact center at one time. Between Prescription Lifeline and Medigap 360, I was going in 200 people in the office, doing some very complicated things.
That's some hefty payroll too, bro. That's some serious hefty payroll.
Yeah, it was. But we helped people get $1 billion of prescriptions, and we built a pretty good organization there that did some good. But
yeah, it did a lot of good. I mean, I know I'm starting to understand a little bit of what you're talking about. I mean, I'm looking at my Slack, and we've got 53 members of our local Slack between the CA LLC and the Secure Agent Marketing Company, not even including any of the stuff on my dad's side, So I mean, yeah, it's once you start adding a lot of people, it's a new dynamic, I mean, it takes a lot more of these things you're talking about.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're gonna love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
There's some people that join the industry and they just kind of dabble, right? They just kind of work. They just kind of buy leads. They just kind of make calls. They just kind of make sales. They just kind of make money, and then they end up at 92%.